18. Place Belur Math, year 1901. Swamiji is in indifferent health since his return to the mutt from the Shillong hills. His feet have swollen. All this has made his brother disciples very anxious. At the request of Swami Niranjanananda, Swamiji has agreed to take Ayurvedic medicine. He is to begin this treatment from next Tuesday and entirely give up taking water and salt. Today is Sunday. The disciple asked him, Sir, it is terribly hot now and you drink water very frequently. It will be unbearable for you now to stop taking water altogether for this treatment. Swamiji, what do you say? I shall make a firm resolve. On the morning of the day I shall begin this treatment, not to take any water. After that, no water shall pass down the throat any more. For 3 weeks, not a drop of water shall be able to go down the throat. The body is but an outer covering of the mind, and whatever the mind will dictate to it, it will have to carry out. So there is nothing to be afraid of. At the request of Niranjan, I have to undergo this treatment. Well, I cannot be indifferent to the request of my brother disciples. It is now about 10 o'clock. Swamiji cheerfully raised the topic of his future mutt for women, saying, with the Holy Mother as the center of inspiration, a mutt is to be established on the eastern bank of the Ganga. As brahmacharins and sadhus will be trained in this mutt here, so in the other mutt also, brahmacharinis and sadhvis will be trained. Disciple, Sir, history does not tell us of any mutts for women in India in ancient times. Only during the Buddhistic period one hears of mutts for women, but from it in course of time many corruptions arose. The whole country was overrun by great evil practices. Swamiji, it is very difficult to understand why in this country so much difference is made between men and women, whereas the Vedanta declares that one and the same conscious self is present in all beings. You always criticize the women, but say, what have you done for their uplift? Writing down smritis, etc., and binding them by hard rules, the men have turned the women into mere manufacturing machines. If you do not raise the women, who are the living embodiment of the Divine Mother, don't think that you have any other way to rise. Disciple, women are a bondage and a snare to men. By their maya they cover the knowledge and dispassion of men. It is for this, I suppose, that scriptural writers hint that knowledge and devotion are difficult of attainment to them. Swamiji, in what scriptures do you find statements that women are not competent for knowledge and devotion? In the period of degradation, when the priests made other castes incompetent for the study of the Vedas, they deprived the women also of all their rights. Otherwise, you will find that in the Vedic or Upanishadic age, Maitreyi, Gargi, and other ladies of revered memory have taken the places of rishis through their skill in discussing about Brahman. In an assembly of 1,000 Brahmanas, who were all erudite in the Vedas, Gargi boldly challenged Yajnavalkya in a discussion about Brahman. Since such ideal women were entitled to spiritual knowledge, why shall not the women have the same privilege now? What has happened once can certainly happen again. History repeats itself. All nations have attained greatness by paying proper respect to women. That country and that nation which do not respect women have never become great, nor will ever be in future. The principal reason why your race has so much degenerated is that you have no respect for these living images of Shakti. Manu says, where women are respected, there the gods delight, and where they are not, there all works and efforts come to naught. Manu 3.56. There is no hope of rise for that family or country where there is no estimation of women, where they live in sadness. For this reason, they have to be raised first, and an ideal mutt has to be started for them. Disciple, Sir, when you first returned from the West, in your lecture at the Star Theatre, you sharply criticized the Tantras. Now by your supporting the worship of women, as taught in the Tantras, you are contradicting yourself. Swamiji, I denounced only the present corrupted form of Vamachara of the Tantras. I did not denounce the mother worship of the Tantras, or even the real Vamachara. The purport of the Tantras is to worship women in a spirit of divinity. During the downfall of Buddhism, the Vamachara became very much corrupted, and that corrupted form obtains to the present day. Even now, the Tantra literature of India is influenced by those ideas. I denounced only these corrupt and horrible practices, which I do even now. I never objected to the worship of women, who are the living embodiment of Divine Mother, whose external manifestations, appealing to the senses, have maddened men, but whose internal manifestations, such as knowledge, devotion, discrimination, and dispassion, make man omniscient, of unfailing purpose, and a knower of Brahman. Saisha prasanna varada nridam bhavati muktaye. She, when pleased, becomes propitious and the cause of the freedom of man. Chandi 1.57. Without propitiating the mother by worship and obeisance, not even Brahma and Vishnu have the power to elude her grasp and attain to freedom. Therefore, for the worship of these family goddesses, in order to manifest the Brahman within them, I shall establish the women's mutt. Disciple: It may be a good idea, but where will you get the women inmates? With the present hard restrictions of society, who will permit the ladies of their household to join your mutt? Swamiji: Why so? Even now there are women disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. With their help, I shall start this mutt. The Holy Mother will be their central figure, and the wives and daughters of the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna will be its first inmates, for they will easily appreciate the usefulness of such a mutt. After that, following their example, many householders will help in their noble work. Disciple: The devotees of Sri Ramakrishna will certainly join this work, but I don't think the general public will help in this work. Swamiji: No great work has been done in the world without sacrifice. Who, on seeing the tiny sprout of the banyan, can imagine that in course of time it will develop into a gigantic banyan tree? At present, I shall start the mutt in this way. Later on, you will see that after a generation or two, people of this country will appreciate the worth of this mutt. My women disciples will lay down their lives for it. Casting off fear and cowardice, you also be helpers in this noble mission and hold this high ideal before all. You will see it will shed its luster over the whole country in time. Disciple: Sir, please tell me all about your plan of this mutt for women. Swamiji: On the other side of the Ganga, a big plot of land will be acquired, where unmarried girls or brahmacharini widows will live. Devout married women will also be allowed to stay now and then. Men will have no concern with this mutt. The elderly sadhus of the mutt will manage the affairs of this mutt from a distance. There shall be a girls' school attached to this women's mutt, in which religious scriptures, literature, Sanskrit, grammar, and even some amount of English should be taught. Other matters such as sewing, culinary art, rules of domestic work, and upbringing of children will also be taught, while japa, worship, meditation, etc., shall form an indispensable part of the teaching. Those who will be able to live here permanently, renouncing home and family ties, will be provided with food and clothing from the mutt. Those who will not be able to do that will be allowed to study in this mutt as day scholars. With the permission of the head of the mutt, the latter will be allowed even to stay in the mutt occasionally, and during such stay will be maintained by the mutt. The elder brahmacharinis will take charge of the training of the girl students in brahmacharya. After 5 or 6 years training in this mutt, the guardians of the girls may marry them. If deemed fit for yoga and religious life, with the permission of the guardians, they will be allowed to stay in this mutt, taking the vow of celibacy. These celibate nuns will in time be the teachers and preachers of the mutt. In villages and towns, they will open centers and strive for the spread of female education. Through such devout preachers of character, there will be the real spread of female education in the country. So long as the students will remain in association with this mutt, they must observe brahmacharya as the basic ideal of this mutt. Spirituality, sacrifice, and self-control will be the motto of the pupils of this mutt, and service or seva dharma the vow of their life. In view of such ideal lives, who will not respect and have faith in them? If the life of the women of this country be molded in such fashion, then only will there be the reappearance of such ideal characters as Sita, Savitri, and Gargi. To what straits the strictures of local usages have reduced the women of this country, rendering them lifeless and inert, you could understand if only you visited the Western countries. You alone are responsible for this miserable condition of the women, and it rests with you also to raise them again. Therefore, I say, set to work. What will it do to memorize a few religious books like the Vedas and so on? Disciple: Sir, if the girl students, after being trained in this mutt, marry, how will one find ideal characters in them? Will it not be better if the rule is made that those who will be educated in this mutt shall not marry? Swamiji: Can that be brought about all at once? They must be given education and left to themselves. After that, they will act as they think best. Even after marriage and entering the world, the girls educated as above will inspire their husbands with noble ideals and be the mothers of heroic sons. But there must be this rule that the guardians of the students in the women's mutt must not even think of marrying them before they attain the age of 15. Disciple: Sir, then those girls will not command reputation in society. Nobody would like to marry them. Swamiji: Why will not they be wanted in marriage? You have not yet understood the trend of society. These learned and accomplished girls will never be in want of bridegrooms. Society nowadays does not follow the texts recommending child marriage, nor will do so in future. Even now, don't you see? Disciple: But there is sure to be a violent opposition against this in the beginning. Swamiji: Let it be. What is there to be afraid of in that? Opposition to a righteous work initiated with moral courage will only awaken the moral power of the initiators the more. That which meets with no obstruction, no opposition, only takes men to the path of moral death. Struggle is the sign of life. Disciple: Yes, sir. Swamiji: In the highest reality of the Para-Brahman, there is no distinction of sex. We notice this only in the relative plane. And the more the mind becomes introspective, the more that idea of difference vanishes. Ultimately, when the mind is wholly merged in the homogeneous and undifferentiated Brahman, such ideas as this is a man or that a woman do not remain at all. We have actually seen this in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. Therefore do I say that though outwardly there may be difference between men and women, in their real nature there is none. Hence, if a man can be a knower of Brahman, why cannot a woman attain to the same knowledge? Therefore, I was saying that if even one amongst the women became a knower of Brahman, then by the radiance of her personality, thousands of women would be inspired and awakened to truth, and great well-being of the country and society would ensue. Do you understand? Disciple: Sir, your teachings have opened my eyes today. Swamiji: Not fully yet. When you realize that all illumining reality of the Atman, then you will see that this idea of sex distinction has vanished altogether. Then only will you look upon women as the veritable manifestation of Brahman. We have seen in Sri Ramakrishna how he had this idea of divine motherhood in every woman, of whatever caste she might be, or whatever might be her worth. It is because I have seen this that I ask you also earnestly to do likewise and open girls' schools in every village and try to uplift them. If the women are raised, then their children will by their noble actions glorify the name of the country. Then will culture, knowledge, power, and devotion awaken in the land. Disciple: But sir, contrary results appear to have come out of the present female education. With just a smattering of education, they take merely to the Western modes of living, but it is not clear how far they are advancing in the spirit of renunciation, self-control, austerity, brahmacharya, and other qualities conducive to Brahmagnana. Swamiji: In the beginning, a few mistakes like that are unavoidable. When a new idea is preached in the country, some, failing to grasp it properly, go wrong in that way. But what matters it to the well-being of society at large? Well, those who are pioneers of the little bit of female education that now obtains in the country were undoubtedly very great-hearted. But the truth is that some defect or other must creep into that learning or culture which is not founded on a religious basis. But now female education is to be spread with religion as its center. All other training should be secondary to religion. Religious training, the formation of character and observance of the vow of celibacy, these should be attended to. In the female education which has obtained up till now in India, it is religion that has been made a secondary concern. Hence those defects you were speaking of have crept in. But no blame attaches therefore to the women. Reformers having proceeded to start female education without being brahmacharins themselves have stumbled like that. Founders of all good undertakings, before they launch on their desired work, must attain to the knowledge of the Atman through rigorous self discipline. Otherwise, defects are bound to occur in their work. Disciple. Yes, sir. It is observed that many educated women spend their time in reading novels and so on. But in East Bengal, even with education, women have not given up their religious observances. Is it so here in this part? Swamiji. In every country, nations have their good and bad sides. Ours is to do good works in our lives and hold an example before others. No work succeeds by condemnation, it only repels people. Let anybody say what he likes. Don't contradict him. In this world of Maya, whatever work you will take up will be attended with some defect. Sarva rambha hi doshena dhume nagni rivavritaha. All works are covered with defects as fire is with smoke. Gita 18.48. Every fire has a chance of being attended with smoke. But will you, on that account, sit inactive? As far as you can, you must go on doing good work. Disciple. What is this good work? Swamiji. Whatever helps in the manifestation of Brahman is good work. Any work can be done so as to help, if not directly, at least indirectly, the manifestation of the Atman. But following the path laid down by the rishis, that knowledge of the Atman manifests quickly. On the contrary, the doing of works which have been indicated by the scriptural writers as wrong brings only bondage of the soul, and sometimes this bondage of delusion does not vanish even in many lives. But in all ages and climes, freedom is sure to be attained by jivas ultimately. For the Atman is the real nature of the jiva. Can anybody give up his own nature? If you fight with your shadow for 1,000 years, can you drive it away from you? It will always remain with you. Disciple. But sir, according to Shankara, karma is antagonistic to jnana. He has variously refuted the intermingling of jnana and karma. So how can karma be helpful to the manifestation of jnana? Swamiji. Shankara, after saying so, has again described karma as indirect help to the manifestation of jnana and the means for the purification of the mind. But I do not contradict his conclusion that in transcendent knowledge there is no touch of any work whatsoever. So long as man is within the realm of the consciousness of action, agent, and the result of action, he is powerless to sit idle without doing some work. So, as work is thus ingrained in the very nature of man, why don't you go on doing such works as are helpful to the manifestation of the knowledge of the Atman? That all work is the effect of ignorance may be true from the absolute standpoint, but within the sphere of relative consciousness, it has a great utility. When you will realize the Atman, the doing or non doing of work will be within your control, and whatever you will do in that state will be good work, conducive to the well being of jivas and the world. With the manifestation of Brahman, even the breath you draw will be to the good of jiva. Then you will no longer have to work by means of conscious planning. Do you understand? Disciple. Yes, it is a beautiful conclusion reconciling karma and jnana from the Vedantic standpoint. At this time, the bell for supper rang, and the disciple, before going to partake of it, prayed with folded hands, "Bless me, sir, that I may attain to the knowledge of Brahman in this very life." Swamiji, placing his hand on the disciple's head, said, "Have no fear, my son. You are not like ordinary worldly men, neither householders nor exactly sannyasins, but quite a new type.